Let's move to today's lecture is on, oh no, not this, I'll collapse that. We've done professionalism, here it is. Alright guys, so today's particular lecture is two things. We'll discuss engineering council. So the guy who wrote this lecture, the very first, he was also a professional engineer from the UK. He left a while ago. Dr. David Etchison. He was a British engineer, and he was from industry, just like Dr. Daniel Wood, and he had come to teach over here to set up this course and set up the engineering course. At that time, they used to code it E412, MM412. So I'm still using some of those notes. In Fiji, the name of the professional body is Fiji Institute of Engineers. In New Zealand, the name of the professional body, every country has got a professional body. So by the way, for Samoa, you guys know what your professional body is called? Sorry? Can you, what's the full name? Okay, in New Zealand it's called IPENZ. It used to be called IPENZ. IPENZ, Institute of Professional Engineers of New Zealand. Now it's called Engineers New Zealand. Your Bachelor of Engineering degree is accredited by IPENZ, and this year it will be accredited, re-accredited by Engineers New Zealand. In Australia it's called Engineers Australia. In the UK it's called the Engineering Council. Alright, so that's why this lecture is about. But it's generally every country has got a body, and those bodies adhere to an international standard. Alright. Okay. So Engineering Council is a UK regulatory body. In Fiji it's FIE. Right? In Fiji it's FIE. In New Zealand, as I said, it's Engineers New Zealand and so forth. It sets and maintains internationally recognized standards of professional competence and ethics which govern the award and retention of professional titles. So once you become a member, you get certain titles beside your name. So when you graduate next year, if you have a business card, you can actually write this down. You can say, let's say your name is, John Hill, all right? Okay, and then you put a comma, and then you say BEng, B-E-N-G, right? And then in brackets, let's say you're electrical, you say ELEC, and then you say comma, and then you're a student member, or by that time you might be you could upgrade your membership to a graduate member. So grad FIE, grad M FIE. So that means you're a graduate member of FIE, right? So this body, they regulate your membership level, and your membership level, they dictate what level you will sit on. So in the UK, these slides over here are more centered on the UK. So in the UK, you have chartered engineer, incorporated engineer, engineering technician, and ICT technician. All right. Okay. Let's look at for FIE what the levels are for FIE. Titles held by 235,000. That's many member engineers. Remember, not everyone becomes a member, right? Of 36 licensed professional institutions. Engineering C, that's the short form, is a charitable body funded through registration fees. Just like how you guys have registration fees, this is the same thing. All right. Okay, these are the mission and vision. I'll give you time to read through that. That's why we've got it all listed on Moodle. I just want to get to the gist of it, all right? Just the gist of it. There's a vision to maintain internationally recognized centers of competence and commitment for engineering profession, and to license competent institutions to champion the standards. All right, this is a very important standard over here, all right? Now just like, read the second part, and to license competent institutions to champion the standards. So the same thing goes for our institution, USP. We have a Bachelor of Engineering program. We couldn't get accreditation without FIE and Engineers New Zealand. We always say, oh, our BE is accredited by IPENZ. But the truth is, FIE played an equivalent role in this, okay? All right? They played a very important role in the accreditation process. What are the benefits? The standards of individual registered with Engineering Council is increasingly being recognized around the world. Now one thing happens over here is that once you become a member of a professional body, you are able to apply for certain jobs. If there is a tender, they will say in the tender that the applicant must be a member of a professional body. You must be a member. So before even the tender takes place, they'll see, is this guy a member? Why? If you're a member, then only can they hold you to a particular standard of code of ethics and code of conduct. All right. So let's say you don't have your firm, right? Almost certainly, most of you guys will work for somebody in the first 2 or 3 years, right? But you as the engineer will sign off on certain documents. When you are tendering, let's say your company is tendering for water authority contract or FEA contract. FEA will try and find out, firstly, number one, does this person have an accredited degree, right? Which is, okay, you do. Number two, is this person a member of, is the engineer a member of a professional body? And you must have that, right? So that's why companies would like to recruit persons who are members of professional bodies, all right? Okay, guys, the attendance list? Yeah. Could you bring it down, please? Yeah, 2 of them, eh? All right, okay. All right. The other thing is, if you are applying for jobs overseas, same principle applies. They would like you to have an accredited program. If you go and look on, can you name me one important job-seeking site? It used to be JobSeek, and there's a lot of employment seeking sites, right? So, so some of these sites, they will actually say accredited Washington Accord. All right. Evidence of registration with Engineering Council can prove helpful in applying for jobs and tendering for work abroad. Okay. There's 4 standards for Engineering Council, and these titles, different titles, they demonstrated by a person who possesses a range of technical and personal competencies, are committed to keeping up things up to date. That's why FIE and any professional body will continually have certain updates. Every so many months, they will have a professional development workshop. That's to demonstrate that you are to keep all the engineers up to date. Remember, what is one of the characteristics of being a professional engineer? They've got to be continually updating themselves, continually learning, lifelong learning, right? And behave in a professional and socially responsible manner, right? So maybe you might be a good engineer. You might be a good engineer. You are very good at your calculations and your work is up to date, you meet the standards. But let us say, socially you went and did drink driving and you had a car accident. That can become a problem for your membership. They might revoke your membership for that. All right? Okay? Or let us say you were caught smoking marijuana. Right? That may become a problem for your membership. And once your membership gets revoked, your job comes on the line. Right? And you might not be able to win tenders for your company. All right. Chartered engineers. So these are the 4 different ranks. There's chartered engineer, incorporated engineer, engineering technician, and ICT engineer. Okay, and over here in these slides, we are going through some of those, the differences between those 4, what do you call, those 4 ranks. Let me just pause over here for a moment, and let's come to this thing here. Let's have a look at the rules of FIE. I want to make it relevant to what you guys will be applying for, because even though you can apply, by the way, if you are game for it, you can apply for Australian membership, you can apply for New Zealand membership, and you can apply for the Engineering Council membership in the UK. It's all fine and good. Of course, membership costs money. Membership costs money, right? And they don't just give you membership, oh, you've applied, we'll let you through. They go through your documents. Luckily, in the case of you guys with FIE, because FIE played a major role, they were 60% part of the accreditation process with UST, they just look at your form, they look at your current student enrollment and your CV, and that's it. They give you almost, you can say, like a very easy entry as student membership, right? There's not much of a fuss about it. Now, insofar as other institutions are concerned, you might have a bit of a more difficult time. You might need to send over transcripts of projects and so forth. In your case, it will only be the form, your CV, and your registration, proof of registration. All right. Now, if we come to FIE, the rules of FIE, these are the ranks for FIE. Eh? You've got fellow, you've got professional member. So in the UK, they call it the chartered engineer. Technical member. In the UK, they've got the technical member. Associate member, affiliate, graduate, and student member. All right. So you guys will be student members, at least for this year. Right. So we're in April now, or we're in May now. And you'll be student member all the way till you graduate around about in March next year. And then from there on, you can upgrade your membership to graduate membership. All right? Okay. So these are the membership records. And here are some of the ways in which they define or differentiate between what is a professional member, what is a technical member. There's some age limits as well. Right? So you guys, most of you might not be able to become a technical member straight away, right? Associate member, affiliate member, and for some of these membership, as you go higher up the chain, you need to attend an interview. So for example, for student member, graduate member, and affiliate member, associate member, part D, E, F, and G, you just fill out the form, send it over, and it should be fine. For A, B, and C, they actually conduct interviews. They conduct interviews, all right? They conduct interviews, and based on those interviews, they award you, right? So it's not a simple thing. It's not like you know how sometimes we just sign up for certain groups and say, oh, we'll become a member of your choir group, right? That's all right, right? You can become a member, right? That's easy. But over here, they actually interview you with your knowledge, whether to rank you accordingly. Because your rank determines if you can win certain types of tenders or not. All right? It's all about where you get placed in the engineering family and how you are able to project yourself in getting jobs done. All right? So these are the ranks for FIE. And then you can read through that, right? Well, what's the difference? What's the process and all that? There's also over here later on, in New Zealand, this is actually an act of parliament, which shows how the New Zealand government controls the engineers, right? In Fiji, this particular act, the counterpart for Fiji, is now at the bill stage. They've drafted it, and it might go through to parliament maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, all right? Because it takes a long time to get something enacted into law. So they've already drafted it. FIE has already drafted it. A lot of people, a lot of stakeholders have drafted it, and it will go through the parliament stages, go through consultation, and then eventually there'll be a vote in parliament and it'll be passed into law, right? So in New Zealand, they have an act to regulate how engineers behave and so forth, all right? Okay. Okay, now let's come back to here. The main point is this, as I mentioned earlier on, that it assists the person in being recognized when applying for a job. And number two, if you are already in a firm, for that firm to secure certain types of contracts, like tenders and so forth. And then number three, obviously for mobility purposes, if you want to go and work in another country, all right, in another country. Now all these engineering bodies, FIE, IPANS, all these guys, they themselves are members, the body itself, not the individual, are members of an international engineering body, all right? And that's the one which regulates things like Washington Accord, which is what your particular degree is measured against. So, chartered engineer, they develop appropriate solutions to engineering problems, right? Chartered engineer in FIE terms is called the professional engineer. In some countries, they call it the CPNs, chartered professional engineer, right? I think in Australia and New Zealand, they call it the CPNs, right? Develop and apply new technologies, promote advanced designs and design methods, are variously engaged in technical and commercial leadership, and possess effective interpersonal skills, right? Okay. The Title C is protected by civil law. Okay, that means you can't just go and put PEng or MFIE on your business card or on your CV, because that's protected by law. All right, that would be a forgery. It's just like saying you have graduated from a degree when you have not graduated. Okay, and in fact there have been a few cases where students who before you guys around about 2013, 2012, we did not have the Bachelor of Engineering program. What we had was the BE Tech program, right? And some of those graduates, how they cheated was, towards the end, they were the last batch and second last batch. When they went to interviews, they claimed to have a Bachelor of Engineering degree. So later on, I think there's about 2 or 3 cases, right? And some of them had not, some BE as well. Some of those guys who were BE, they had completed 31 units, or they had completed 32 units but had not completed IWE, right? But they had not graduated, but they claimed to have graduated. So later on, those companies were able to find out that these students had committed fraud, and they were prosecuted. They lost their jobs and they were prosecuted. So please be careful about what designation you place on your CV and on your business card and so forth. Now, guys, it is important for you to note what is the difference between each of these engineers, like professional engineer and let's say engineering technician. So a good particular theoretical question for your final exam or for your short test 2 is, what is the difference between engineering technician and what do you call and a professional engineer, right? What type of engineers? So let's say engineering technician solves practical problems. So I don't want to read out each and every line. There's a lot of words over there. There's a lot of notes over here. I leave it to you to read and go through to develop a particular understanding of what we're talking about. I'll just start off on what we have for next week. So next week we will be looking at IPEN's membership, and we'll cover that on Monday afternoon. All right. For now, the important part for you is to look at the levels of membership, but not only that. We would like you to look at the rules of FIE. The form is there, all right, okay. We would like you to look at the rules of FIE and also develop an opinion as to what is the difference between each of those sorts of members. So you've got a few members over here, FIE, professional, technical, associate, student, and so forth, all right. Now the other thing I would like you to read. Now, according to our last lecture on Monday, our last lecture was on Monday in the U8 lecture theatre. There was 2 prescribed reading. Please go through this. I'm not going to read for you in class. It's very simple reading. It's actually, if you look at it, that's 1 page, 2 page, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5, 6 pages of reading. All right. But if you look at it, it's actually, the book was a small book, and when we scanned it, we enlarged the size. So 6 pages of reading, and it's what you call non-technical reading. What I mean by this is, when you read a math book, or when you're reading, let's say, a physics book or some engineering book, there's so many formulas, you've got to actually, 1 line of formulas will take you maybe 15 minutes to process. But this here is simple English. There's not much of technicality. You don't have to read and analyze the formula, right? So I'd like you to read through that. That will be examinable in your short test and your final examination. And there's something called developing and exhibiting professionalism. Okay, all right, that's it for today's lecture.